Hello everyone, my name is John Paul Turner. I'm a fourth year graduate student at the Department of Molecular and Cellular Pharmacology at the University of Miami in Stephan Schurer's lab. We're also associated with the Center for Computational Science. Today I'd like to talk to you about OntoloBridge, and specifically connecting ontology users and ontology maintainers. And thank you for your time. So the problem that we would like to first solve here is, on the right here we have someone who is the maintainer of an ontology, specifically in this case, Biomedical Ontology. So they're a maintainer. Next we have a user over here who is using the ontology through some method and has an idea to change the ontology. So we'll call them a user, and so we start off with the first problem. So ideally what would happen is, they would find the contact information of the particular maintainer in the ontology metadata, zip all that up in an email that to the maintainer reads it, realizes it's a great idea, incorporates the changes, releases a new ontology version. However, currently that isn't really how it happens most of the time. So first and foremost, one of the issues we have is that getting the contact information of the ontology in the first place can be rather difficult. While many ontologies do in fact put the contact information in the metadata, not all ontologies do. Sometimes it may be an email, sometimes it may be a GitHub, sometimes it may be a website. Depending on the ontology, there may be a custom form on the website that you want to fill out, depending on what type of term you want to submit. Or they may just have a generic GitHub form, or just say contact the maintainer, and then there's a back and forth that happens. The second issue is that the maintainers typically are not devoted directly to the ontology entirely. They may be working on other ontologies, they may be, a PI in a lab, or a graduate student, or a postdoc in a lab, and so therefore have other obligations, and so can't get around to request as quickly as they would like. And their emails may be flooded with other things if their primary method of communication is emails. Finally, if you're, for instance, working for a pharmaceutical company or some other position in industry that would like to keep requests, relatively quiet, or you at least don't want anyone to know who's requesting the terms, there's no real way to contact the maintainers of these developments without sort of, showing yourself, as it were. And then the final problem is that many users of the ontologies are not exactly expert ontologists themselves. They will be working with some other system, for instance BioPortal, or maybe an internal system such as Bioassay Express from Collaborative Drug Discovery, or other internal systems such as at the University of California in San Francisco. And so they may be using these internal systems and request a change or an update to a term, but then that goes to a technologist, and then we have a game of telephone because the technologist, while knowledgeable, may not have the exact knowledge needed for the request, and they take these requests and send those off to the maintainer, and then the maintainer may request more information than what the technologist provided, and then you have to sort of go back and forth. To help with all of this, we've come up with this software called OntoloBridge. The idea behind OntoloBridge is that you have, as you can see up here, two users. One may be using and viewing the ontology directly, in this case Bioassay Ontology, and may be a knowledgeable ontology user. This other user is using Bioassay Express, and they may not be as knowledgeable on ontologies themselves. Either way, because of a robust RESTful API we have, you can submit the new terms via our API, either Bioassay Express can, the user can submit them directly via the API themselves. Here soon we'll have a standalone website that you can also submit the terms by. Once they're submitted using a form of JSON, they will reach the OntoloBridge backend. The OntoloBridge backend will then determine what ontology this particular request belongs to, and then attempt to email the maintainers. Currently we only support emailing. In the future we also plan to support GitHub, but the user in this case, the submitter, can also request to be notified. They can request to not be notified, so they may just fire and forget and say, hey, I want this changed, but I don't really want to know if it gets accepted or rejected. I'm just, hoping that you accept my term. Or they can say, yes, I want to be notified along all steps of the route. However, once the OntoloBridge backend determines what ontology this should belong to, it will then email the maintainers, and the maintainers will be notified and can update the status that they're reviewing the term, and then decide, hey, this doesn't really fit. maybe, you know, this doesn't work in our ontology, maybe, you know, there's a disagreement about where in the hierarchy it fits, so they can reject it outright, or they might try and communicate with the user directly. Now, as I said earlier, currently, depending on how you want to submit, if you're working in industry and don't want to be don't want your identity to be revealed, it can be relatively difficult to communicate with maintainers currently. However, OntoloBridge has an anonymous submission mechanism. So as part of the API, or whenever you're making an account on our standalone website, whenever that's released, you can check to have your email anonymized, and it will then be hidden behind an email at OntoloBridge domain. And therefore, all emails sent to that anonymous email will then be forwarded to your actual email. The maintainer will never know who has actually submitted the terms unless you reveal yourselves. If you obviously reply to that email with your email, it'll be broken because you're not sending it through OntoloBridge, you're sending it as a reply. However, there's also a internal messaging system that allows you to talk back and forth to the maintainer without having to reply to that email. Once all of the communication is finished, however, the maintainer can accept the request, and in doing so, they now need to update their ontology. Now, they can do this manually based on the information either via the API or via the standalone website whenever that gets released. However, we also allow export via CSV of the terms, and you can filter these based on, for instance, terms that need currently reviewing, terms that have been accepted, terms that were rejected, so you can filter these based only on what you need. Now, we have a paper coming out here soon on Ontologies. It's a new software that we've been developing to build bioassay ontology and drug target ontology, and it allows us to automatically import the CSVs from OntoloBridge into our relational database that we use as a middleman before we build our ontologies, and then it can also build the ontology OWL files. Regardless, afterwards, you can update the status within the API, and it will then inform, for instance, BAE or anyone else who submitted the term request, so that they may update it within their systems. And as I said earlier, there is an internal messaging system, so if the maintainer needs information and you aren't replying to emails, or you state, for instance, your justification that you don't want to be contacted by email only through the messaging system, he can leave a message to the messaging system, and then we'll email you through the anonymous email that we've made and inform you that there's a new message in your queue. We're hoping overall this allows for quicker iterations of ontologies and more communication between users and maintainers, and allows for quicker turnarounds, which is incredibly important in our current situation, such as the rapidly developing knowledge of COVID-19. On top of that, you can see here we have, this is the beta version of our Swagger documentation for our API. We have APIs to request different property types, to request the status of a term, to change the status of a term, to request a new term, as well as to update your current request. There's also this request controller down below, this retrieve controller down below that allows you to get the CSV file. I'll go over specifically the term submission API, so this request term. And so this is the main endpoint for all submissions. As you can see, we have the anonymized email address, which will then tell you your anonymized email address. For bioassay ontology and drug target ontology specifically, we require description, label, and superclass. Although in the future we are looking forward to having custom forms per ontology. And you can also put in your email. It is currently not required, but soon will be, as well as possibly having a user login. You can determine if you want to be notified or not, what ontology you're making this request for, any references you might have, as well as any justification you might have for adding of this term. Maybe a name if you want to be identified in any of the emails. With the APIs out of the way, I would now like to talk to you about what current ontologies are in OntoloBridge. So the major ontologies currently supported by OntoloBridge, and you can make requests for through our APIs, is the Bioassay Ontology, or BAO, and the Drug Target Ontology, or DTO. Both of these are maintained here at the University of Miami, primarily by me. However, we also have some external ontologies from external to Miami. We have the Cell Line Ontology, or CLO, and the Coronavirus Infectious Disease Ontology, or CIDO, both maintained by Oliver Heath. Finally, we have the protein ontology maintained by the PRO consortium, or PRO. We hope that including these major ontologies in the first release of OntoloBridge, and certainly as the main website, the standalone website comes online, that it will further accelerate the development of these ontologies and ensure that they stay up to date. However, next I'd like to talk to you about our collaboration with Stanford and the integrations into BioPortal. And through that work with Stanford, BioPortal has been updated to have communication with our APIs. So they've added this new tab whenever you click on a class in an ontology, in this case the bioassay ontology. So you can make a new term request. So you can, after you've clicked on a class in the tree and you click on new term request, it'll show you what the ontology maintainer expects to see out of the ontology. So any request items that we might want is seen here, and even including what's optional. And then you can click request term, and it will send that information to us. The importance of this is that it allows submission of requests while viewing them, and it shows you what is expected for the ontology through this form that we have here. As I said earlier, we're also working on a standalone website. This is a mock-up made within the lab. The standalone website will be releasing within the next couple of weeks, hopefully. Once you log in, you can click the start button, and it'll take you to our submission pipeline. This is the end of the pipeline, but as you can see, there's 3 steps. Finding an ontology, finding a term in the hierarchy, and then the submission form. This is not representative of the final submission form, but shows you that the form that you can fill out and then submit. With that said, I would like to thank you for your time, and specifically thank my PI, Stephan Schurer, also Caty Chung and Vasilios Stathias, who's been helping me here at the University of Miami, as well as the University of California, San Francisco, Julie Davies, Collaborative Drug Discovery, Samantha and Hande, as well as Stanford, Mark Musin, John Graybeal, and Michael Dorf. And I'm now available for questions. Thank you.